Yay. All right. So this is the fifth part of our Dream 25 strategy series. And let me go ahead and share the screen because we're going to bounce around. All right. Let's do a quick recap of where we have been and where we're at now. So if you started following along, we have been working on creating a strategy to nurture your Dream 25 high-value prospects or your strategic partners. And we started at a place assuming that you didn't even have a list, but you wanted to be better at actually creating that list and managing new business and going out and working against nurturing those contacts. So the first step was finding the right prospects and creating your list of 25. The next session covered, well, we have them, but how can we research to find out more information that we can use to actually develop the relationship? The third session covered, all right, we have all of this research, but how do we make any sense of it? And so we went through and we collected and created themes out of that research. And that alone was getting a little complicated. And today we're going to dig into, all right, now I know what's important to these prospects, but how do I get their attention? How do I create these touch points in such a way that it makes people take notice and starts the engagement? And then the final session in our series will be, all right, we created this plan. We're going to start working against it. How do we know if it's actually working? And that will be our last session. All right. So just to recap, this top 25 list that we are working against should be so high value that when you convert these people to clients, they would be worth 5 to 10% of your annual revenue. Therefore, when you convert one, it probably covers the entire investment in this process. And then the same for your strategic partners. These people should be so in tune with what you do and sending you referrals that are that high value. So again, worth the investment in nurturing those relationships. Okay, so you should have received the template, this week's template for planning the touch points. Did you get those in an email? Okay.
I've been looking for it.
Okay, so that didn't make its way. Let me stop this share real quick and I will email both of you so you can have that. Follow along.
To be fair, I just registered, so
then yes.
it hasn't even had time to realize that I'm here.
You should have just said yes. I got it. Let's see.
And then confused me. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, why didn't you, Nancy? Hold on 1 second. This is the number 4. Oh, it's open. So now it's really mad at me. 4. There we go. Yep. All right, it's on its way. And now I gotta open that. Give me 1 second to get back to this touch point. All right. And it's fun. Like you can tell how much work goes into this based on this series alone and how the numbers fell off because it's a lot of work to actually get through it all. Okay, so you should get that in a second. Now, what I want
I got it.
Suggest is yes, I cannot minimize. Okay, thank you for that. Now let me get back to sharing. What I want to suggest is get your if you did the themes, let's have that open as well. Okay, let me get back to sharing. Hello, sharing the screen. And don't worry, we'll give examples. Okay. So where we are going with this, when we design the actual touch points that are going to be shared with these contacts, I want to remind you what we're working toward. We want to share things that are helpful with these people. We want to show them that we understand maybe their challenges, where they're at in life, what they're working with. We understand them, okay, as people. We want to validate the things that are important to them, what they care about. And ultimately, we're always trying to showcase, listen, I care. I'm here to help. I want to be part of this. Let me know how else I can help, right? Those are kind of the overall messages that we're trying to get across by being in front of them on a consistent basis. And now, as a reminder, when it comes to both your strategic partners and your Dream 25, we're going to be working on designing touch points that go out every 7 weeks throughout the year. I think that comes out to about 7. And listen, they can go out 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, that's kind of the time frame you want to be in front of them. So what we're working on is taking all the themes that you have collected, all the research, all the knowledge, and ultimately turning them into what's the first thing I send them. To do this, at the Expressory, over time, we have developed what we call our 6 strategic storylines. We have figured out that there are 6 different themes that you can pull, well, storylines, that when you weave these into the gift, the physical mailing that you create, and the story in the messaging, it creates a stronger emotional connection with them. It really showcases that you care, you understand, it validates the things that are important to them. Okay, so before we get into some of the themes and the examples, I'm going to take you through each of these 6 things, and I'm going to give you some examples of how they've been used in the past. And then we will go through, pull up some of the themes that we've collected maybe for your own Dream 25 and see if we can come up with some ideas so I can show you how we use these. All right. So when we are designing a touch point, one of the first things we start to think about is, can the thing that we're creating, that we're going to put in front of them, be relationship related? So take, for example, I'm going to draw on this theme of creativity, because that has come up in some of the research we've done, is that the work that people in, let's say, the advertising agencies, PR agencies, the work that these people do is very creative, right? So the first thing I would say is, when it comes to designing a touch point to get in front of them, could the thing I send be anything relationship related? And these are the questions that we use to brainstorm ideas. So do we have any shared traditions around the subject of creativity? It can be both in your personal life and your professional life. So when it comes to creativity, I could say, you know what, we went, in our company, we have a very common practice of brainstorming a certain way. We find that it really brings out the creativity in our team, and maybe it's like a certain exercise. So it's a tradition at our company that we all get together. There was a company that I saw that when they are brainstorming, they actually take the company out into nature and they brainstorm out in the right. So could the touch point I design share with them our tradition of going out into nature, or share with them an exercise that my team does regularly when it comes to being creative and generating more creative ideas? That's how you would use this relationship related theme. The other question you can ask when you're designing something that reflects a relationship related theme is there something that's typically passed down within a group of people? And I will give you this example. So I attended a conference, and as part of the conference, they were this community. So it was a community that met on an annual basis. And each year they honored like a lifetime achievement award, we'll say, right? And so this is something that is passed around in a group in this community. It's a tradition that they're going to honor someone who's been part of that community for a long time. And when they presented the recipient that year, they presented them an award, and it's a beautiful gold journal, and it says the name of the lifetime achievement on it, and tucked inside was a $2 bill. And now what made this gift, this touch point, amazing was that the person told the background, the storyline for the reason they chose this. And the $2 bill reflected something that when he was growing up, his mother always carried $2 bills around. And anytime she wanted to thank someone for their good service or saw them doing good, she would pull out this $2 bill and write a little message on it and gift that. So the leader of this community chose to include the $2 bill in gratitude for the lifetime service. Now you think about that story. That is such a connecting relationship related story. Those people are going to be emotionally tied together for a while when they think about you every time they use the journal, right? So you can see how weaving in that story made that gift powerful. All right, let's move on to transition acknowledgement. Another story you can look for relates to any kind of transition. And the questions you can ask is, does this transition represent a milestone that the recipient is working toward accomplishing, so that they would be achieving milestone in their life that transitions them? Or maybe they already did, right? Think about graduating. That's a big milestone. You transition to another phase in your life. Maybe you've received a certification. I will say in personal life, maybe it's a marriage or a divorce. Maybe it's the first purchase of a home. That's typically a new life phase, right? Does this represent where someone is going, where they're headed along the same lines, transition? You can also use things like environmental things, like seasons. We transition, right? Spring, summer, winter. You can draw on that theme. So we've seen people give gifts around the fourth quarter and say, as we transition into wrapping up the year, you should start looking at planning your next goals, right? So I'm looking out for you. This is how you weave in the story that I'm being helpful. I'm giving you something to help you transition into the new year. Again, New Year's, another big transition. Environmentally, COVID was a really big one, right? As we transitioned into and dealing with, and then transitioning out of when the world kind of opened back up. That was another one that people really drew on. Someone I saw that did this really well was an example of at holiday season, right when travel was starting to open back up. One of our clients sent "damn it" doll to all of her contact list. And the messaging, again, the storyline said, you might be stressed. We've been dealing with COVID and the economy and, trying to balance keeping the business running and all these things she listed out, and the stress. And now we're transitioning. How does life look when we're opening up, right? Sometimes when we're frustrated, maybe you can use this doll to, bash this around when you're angry. That doll was the biggest hit. People, actually, I still have one back here, but people still talk about it years later. But it acknowledged big transitions in life. Okay, another reason that "damn it" doll worked really well is because it was not only this transitional life moment, but it represented a shared experience. It represented something that we were all experiencing together. So shared experiences are another storyline you can tap into when you're creating these touch points in the messaging that you're going to use. How did you meet them? Maybe you met them at a conference. Maybe you interviewed them. Maybe you were on their podcast, or they were on yours. Maybe mean, who knows? Maybe you met while traveling together somewhere. But anytime you have these shared experiences, when you use your messaging to refer back to that, you're stirring up the positive emotions related to that. You're bringing them back to, oh, that was a great conversation we had. That was a fantastic time we had together. Now, this shared experience can also work by sending them something beforehand. So if you know you're attending a conference with them, if you know you're going to be speaking to them or on the, you can send them something beforehand and say, hey, I'm looking forward to when we get together and we use, this might be helpful. And maybe it's something to help them with traveling there, or a journal that helps them take notes when they go there, whatever it may be. Shared experiences, this one, the idea of inside jokes works really well in this category. Inside jokes go, I mean, those are lasting. Anytime you can tap into, hey, remember that time? We there were a group of us that attended some training and at Disney, and we got stuck on a ride together for like 30 minutes. And so afterwards, a couple of us made t-shirts, marked safe from. And that goes over really well, whether or not they're using the shirts or not. Sometimes I still wear it and people say, oh my God, and they remember the story, but it brings up the relationship we created together, right? So those become lasting. Okay, the next one is goal acknowledgments. This one is really powerful when you're talking with prospects, because if you think about it, you know their pain points, you know what they're working toward, and you can tap into giving them something that serves as a reminder, kind of motivates them to go and achieve it, right? So, hey, I know you are working on being more consistent with your content. Here's some tools that we've seen work really well to helping plan those. I look forward to watching you become, influential, kind of thing. That's a goal of theirs. Now you're motivating them to go out and do it. All those little motivational, what do I have behind me? Plaques, right? She needed a hero, so that's what she became. All of these things stick around and motivate people to be the better versions of themselves. It works really well to acknowledge and celebrate them when they have achieved it. So when you're watching your prospect, I know some of the people we're working with financial advisors, and financial advisors receive, they can be acknowledged as best in state or top, 100, and they'll publicly release share posts about that they, their advisors won these things. Well, send them something to celebrate that, acknowledge it. It, is a big accomplishment for them. So that's how you use that storyline. DIY gifting. This one speaks for itself. Now, the thing is, it doesn't have to be made by you. If something is made by hand, it is more valuable to people. Yes, thank you. Exactly. You do not have to be the one to make it. Truthfully, this is why all of our cards are handmade, because people recognize someone put time into that. It is not a read it card and throw it away. It's the kind of card that it's a little bit more like art, and it's going to stick around. We always have people tell us they see these things in offices for long periods of time to come. So the other way this works is if it is something that was, yes, there's the hand, see, it's always around, right? This is also well done if you have something made specific to that person. So one of our clients had, I believe it was one of their clients, they wanted to give a gift because they knew she had referenced a car that she owned when she was younger, and it was like her dream car, loved this car. So they wanted to give her something related to that type of car. So we went out and we found And it was actually looked like a blueprint of when they made those, and it was on this nice like charcoal black metal material, and it could be hung on the wall. It came in a nice box, but it was something made specifically for her, and she recognized that, right? So huge emotional engagement between the giver and the recipient, and very lasting. And then the last one is a little bit related to that. Gift acquisition refers to if you have a story about where you got that thing and you can weave it in. And this one cracks me up because I kid you not, it could be as simple as a rock. I had a coach who and I love this. When I see people's offices, I love looking around their space. And I love the stories about why they have things in their space. And she had this um, big rock. It's real smooth kind of rock. And I said, so, what's the story behind that? And she said one of her clients was traveling to a place that she knew this coach loved. And the traveler had done some meditation, and she found this beautiful rock and brought it back for the coach and said, hey, I remember you loved this place. I visited the ocean while I was there. I found this. And she kind of gave it this story, like, I hope you use it when you're meditating, kind of thing, and reflecting on your accomplishments, because that's what I did. And so it tied them together, and a rock sat on her shelf for years, right? I actually have a rock that a friend had given me that I kept for years, because that one's a funny story. But I meant to wear it. How silly of me. My mom went to South Africa recently and came back with these, they were hand beaded necklaces from one of the tribes. And she actually brought it for me because she figured it'd be beautiful to frame. But it is enormous. It's, like this, but it actually is just gorgeous. So I'm looking forward to finding something to wear with it. But you see what I just did there? When I do wear that, I will tell everybody the story about where I got it now and how she got it, right? So imagine you are the business person who gives your prospect something with a story about where you got this thing. Maybe it's a book, and you met this author and you had this fantastic conversation, and you got these books specially signed, autographed by the author, and you want your prospect to have them. That's a client of ours did that. She would mail the prospects books from an author friend, and with a story around it, right? Now, as the recipient, I feel like, wow, look what you gave me. Actually, let me go back to this goal acknowledgement, because the books work really well here. So think about, here's the story. When I was working in corporate world in my 20s, in your 20s, you think you're going to accomplish the world. And I was very driven. And my manager at the time ended up moving on and traveling overseas, but we worked really well together. And he gave me a gift of a book. It was like the 12 leader, Malcolm, I forget the last name. Anyway, it was a book about leadership. And inside of it, my boss, not the author, my boss wrote this very personal message about, keep up the great work. You're really going to go places. Just remember me someday when you're a leader. Don't forget about me, kind of thing. I still have the book. I've read it, so that thing sits on my shelf 25 years later. But that's a way you can use. Now, I also married that guy, but like that's a that's a different story. Now,
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I totally knew it was Steve, but I didn't even know the story yet.
that's funny. That is funny. Yes. So I still have the book, and pretty soon he will work for me. We work together, you guys, together. So, but we've had people do that. Now, it's more than just signing the book. Like, write a message about where they are going, because that means something to somebody, that you hold that space for them. So that's how you make that messaging powerful. Okay. that's a whole lot of descriptions and stories. So what I want to do is flip over into some examples. Now, if you guys have some, we want to do, well, actually, let me walk you through the template first, okay? Because what I said is you want to plan out what you're going to send for the entire year. You can do this a quarter at a time, kind of test out, and then do the next quarter as you see what's working and what's not. But what you have in this template is the ability to say, okay, when am I going to send my first one? And based on the themes, what did we decide to put in this package? You can give yourself some budgets, right? So you can see what you're working with. And then you can work out your messaging here. And then eventually you're going to list all those recipients, your Dream 25 contacts. We've given you space here if they fall into different industries, you can split that up. Otherwise, you can have one long list. That's fine too. Okay, but that's how we're going to use this. And again, one thing that would help is give yourself a rough estimate of when you're going to start. So where are we? Where are we now? September? Let's say you're going to start this in October. Okay. And then what is 7 weeks from there? So let's just say it's late December that you get the second one, right? Maybe it's February, but this would help. Give yourself some general timing throughout the year. Okay, now, until we actually planned the details of the touch points, we were kind of, it's like a puzzle. We were kind of taking the themes and plugging them in. Because what we knew is maybe in February, no, I'm going to give the example of, let's say we had May was one of our touch points, and CPAs were one of the prospects. Maybe in May would be a really good timing to do a touch point around relax, take a break, right? Because they're coming off of tax season. So I might plug in here for my CPA industry, I would say rest, relax theme. Okay. And eventually, if I'm doing this quarter at a time, then I would come back and use the storylines and figure out, all right, what are we going to put into this touch point? Okay. So let's take some specific examples. I gave the example of creativity with one of the themes that we found after doing the research. Let me pull up the theme. All right. So you could go through and list a bunch of different ideas. And you can also bring them into then the template for like where I'm going to plug that in, right? So you can see it's kind of repeated over here. There were journals, books, that sort of thing. And one package idea might be a book on creative thinking, give them a brand new journal to capture those ideas, and then give them some snacks for their team to work together. If I knew that, you know, maybe I make a story that, hey, the idea of our team goes out into nature every time we want to brainstorm. So I'm going to use that relationship related story, and I'm going to tell them our tradition of how we brainstorm, and then I'm going to create them a package to go out into nature and do their own and give it a try. Okay, so I would kind of plot that all out here, and I would plug in the messaging that goes with it. Because again, it's your message that makes it powerful. Okay, coming back to themes. Let me show you this one. Where was? Okay. One of the themes that we ran into was staying on top of the latest skills, but it was also related to people skills. bringing in keeping things more human. Okay. So that was coming up in our list of themes after we did the research. So one of the things we did when we actually designed the touch point is we said, okay, let's find research on people like human skills, humanized approach in doing business. Let's find research on emotional intelligence and helping those leaders stay keeping their skills up, right? So could I send them a book related to that subject? Now, what theme does that fall into? I would say it's goal. Because when we looked at the research, we knew it was a goal of theirs to stay on top of the latest skills. So when I designed my messaging, it would say something like, we know it's very important to stay on top of the latest skill set. And in today's world, staying personal, keeping things at a human level is very important. Enjoy this book or these research articles on some of the latest, what would you call it, like top thinkers. Maybe it's like Harvard Business Review. We found some articles, and enjoy some of these articles to help you keep top of mind with that or stay fresh. And that's how you would write that messaging. There's so much to talk about here. When it comes to articles, you could print those out and highlight some of the things that you think are key so that you're giving them this packet that is just really easy for them to review. Maybe they share it with their team. Okay, so you can see how those things become useful, valuable to them. You're not selling. No, in the messaging, in any of this messaging, you're just signing your name. You don't give them, here's my email, here's my phone number, here's my website. Let's find some time. It's simply, I'm being helpful. Here's some things that I know are going to be valuable to you. Done. Because over time, they start to look you up. Okay, that's a lot. Let me throw it out there for you guys. If you've got examples you want to work through, let's do that. So as you have researched, or if you have clients that come to mind, what are some things that you know about them that they're or prospects? I'm sorry, you've got prospects. Think of some of the challenges you already know. Let's go through them.
I think before I can answer that, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
How have I learned information about them? Right? So like, have I learned this information because we've had some sort of conversation? Have I learned this information because I've looked them up and stalked them?
Yes.
Have I, like, how have I learned this information?
Yep. So you were on vacation. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Back to the research. So there was the spreadsheet and had all these goals. What are the top pain points in there? So yes, it is not necessarily that you've had these conversations. You found out that in the agency industry, these are the top 3 things that people are struggling with. These are the top 3 things they're working on. Their goals for the year. You're just tapping into that. Now, notice that was all like industry specific. So everything I shared right there was something we sent to all 25 people on the list. At some point, you'd also have information specific to a company. See, here's that one about refresh. This specific company did outdoor activities. So I might, and it takes a lot of work, but I would find something specific. One of the touch points in May, let's say, I go through and I find one interesting thing about each company, and they all get a different touch point specific to them. It's complicated, but it works. Then you might get down to the personal level. So in your research, you may have found that the contact that we were researching is very into this sports team or very into learning about this thing. Now I send something specific to that person. right? So there are three levels of this fun. And that's
That makes
why
sense though.
you need a template to keep track of it. So maybe I say in February, each company gets their own, right? It is not a general theme. And in that case, I would come in here and say, this one's nature related. This one's wellness related. This one is, team building. They had a lot of team building activities that I saw, right? Okay, and then you're going to use any of these to make your messaging and your reason for sending those things. The thing is, you guys, like, this is really complicated to see how it all weaves together. And we've only gotten to this place by doing it over and over and over again. It comes very naturally. So I know it's not easy up front, but that's why, you know, take them one at a time and see what we can come up with. Sorry, Shondell. So what else, where else did you go?
No, that's perfect. Now I have a better understanding now of, like what makes sense. We obviously deal with really sensitive information. So to just kind of come out of the woodwork of like, hey, we're thinking of you. Hey, we noticed you're working on X. Hey, we know that this is not going well. We're here to encourage you. One, it's just sensitive information, right? So I just don't want it to feel invasive. But when there's like, I think there's
Well,
enough layers in between that they've seen us before we would get to that level. So that it makes sense now.
but you're thinking a client or prospect? Client, you would
Pro
know the sensitive information.
Client, I would, yes.
Prospect, you probably wouldn't.
Well, so you're right. I guess what I'm still focused on in a prospecting space is just how to connect on a human level, not necessarily a pain point level.
Yes. Well, pain point in general. So
Okay.
what you in the research, what you would do is you would go search like what are the top pain points of X industry, and you're going to
Mhm.
find those.
Yep.
That's your theme.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I have not watched the recording from
You're
last month,
fine,
so I
dear.
apologize.
You're right. Been a little busy.
Weird.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yep. So that's why it's
Okay.
not feeling invasive. And all of this stuff has come from, public. The industry stuff is really easy because you can say, we know
Yeah.
from this industry, this is important to the industry. And it works really well. Mhm.
Of
Nancy?
course, now I'm using my friend Google.
Yeah.
Google is your friend. I found that AI, Gemini, and those kind are actually will give you better answers when you put the questions in there.
Yeah.
Sidebar, I actually met with somebody a couple weeks ago and I said, how did you find me? And she said, Chat GPT.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. She said, I was looking for somebody to help me market my app and your name popped up. I was like,
Yay.
okay. So that's when I started using that for everything. But on a different note, I've noticed in what we're trying to accomplish, we actually have two very distinct different markets.
Okay.
One being coaches and the other still the real estate. The real estate we had kind of put on hold, but then it keeps coming back because right now we have a fantastic way to hold an open house, a virtual open house with them because the law changed of
Okay.
how they have to do things.
Good.
And this applies to all agents
Okay.
in general. But in looking at the research for what to do, I've also noticed that these two very distinct groups have different but distinct patterns.
Mm-hmm.
For example, coaches, no matter what, I mean, I cyber stalked three, I couldn't do all 25. So right
Sure.
now I just did 3, right?
Good.
Coach wise, one is a motivational type personal coach, business coach, but to excel to get going forward. Another one coaches people who are in the HR realm. And the third one is about money. So very different
Mhm.
in
Goals, yep.
in their focus. So it's not all a
Mhm.
bunch of personal life coaches kind of thing. But they all were grounded, was a big thing of theirs. Meditation
Mhm.
was a big thing. Nature, balance,
This is
the,
fantastic.
those kind of things that were all very similar.
Mhm.
They were also from very different walks of life. One is from Canada, one is from the Keys in Florida, and one of them is from Virginia. So now we're also talking totally different areas, but it was just amazing how much they were connected. And this that you just went over, I can see, with the exception of a little bit here and there, how the touch point can be very generic, but feel personal.
Absolutely. Right? And that's the beauty of it, is it feels like it
Yeah,
was made just for me, the way, because of the messaging, the way you tie that in. Like, oh, they
right,
knew about me.
right,
Mhm.
right. And so from that aspect, I mean, I've had a couple ideas rolling. Now, the real estate agents on a totally different aspect, whenever you cyber stalk them, all they're doing is trying to sell you their
I
house.
know. I
They
have
are
found that
really
too.
hard,
Yep.
except for the few that love to travel, but it's almost like they and take Allison out of this. Allison is a
Yep.
very unique real estate agent that she loves to put her personal out there
Mhm.
as well as selling. And she actually fits more into the coach realm of
Yeah.
balance
Yeah.
and nature and in that respect. But they're all about their open house and their selling because first of all, they're not leveraging social media the way that they should.
Mhm.
And they're totally violating Facebook in that you are not allowed to be selling your home on your personal any longer. And,
Oh,
to like list all of that. And your
wow.
business page actually is not allowed to list home listings anymore either. But until the Facebook police decide to
Oh,
come down on, they're forcing them to buy ads,
shut up.
calling it what it is. So
Um,
they're still doing it.
well, okay, so this is where you go to the industry level, though.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
We do have some clients who work with realtors, and you give them tools because you know relationship building is important to them.
Right.
So how can you give them tools to build those relationships? How can you give them tools to celebrate their own clients? Give them tools to network with more people, right? So there's themes. Again, you're being helpful. You're acknowledging what's important to them.
Well, and that right there is what's the biggest thing is that if I look at the real successful ones versus the rookies coming in, it is relationship building,
Mm-hmm.
which ultimately is the product that we're selling, right? Not to tie our product into it, but what we're trying to do with our product is to walk the walk.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we want to build a relationship. Like one of the biggest things is that we tell people hold an open house for one of your best clients who is networked with other clients that are your ideal clients.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in the real estate world, go to the broker and who has a large number of agents under them, and for us to have an open house that we host, and now they just filled the room with everybody who is our client.
Right, but you don't tell them that. So,
Correct.
right. So all of these are just, I know what you need
Right.
without telling you what I do
Exactly.
and
Because we don't
why
want to tell
I'm the
people what
best.
we do.
Right. And
We
they
don't want to
will
make
start
it
looking you up.
sales.
Right. Right.
And in fact, for a while there, as you know, we were celebrating by sending cards. And I still think that's a very valid
Mhm.
way to get their attention. Um, in the fact that we saw something online, we didn't really even know the agent, but we sent them a card saying, hey, congratulations on selling this house.
Yeah.
We saw that. What was really very helpful is that we were zero sales with it. I don't even think we put business cards in it. I think we
Right.
just flat out
Yep.
signed it, we're the team and, have a good day. If they
Yep.
had, I mean, we did tell them what company we were with, but it still worked well. But with that, let's talk, an open house. We
Mhm.
have that virtual open house that they're going to come in and they're going to start asking their question, real estate agents, about the new law and stuff. And we know that these people are here. What type of touch points could we do either leading up to it to get them encouraged to come in, or afterwards to thank them? I mean, we don't want to, yeah, we'll send them digital trainings and stuff like that, but the most participating online events have that element where they receive something ahead of time.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden they feel like they want to attend,
Right.
but it wasn't salesy.
So a couple things. Yes, the before and after works well, because what you're talking about is you're getting them together for a shared experience. It's learning, right? So the before could be a small journal or notebook. And hey, we're really looking forward to seeing you for this thing. It's what would you call it? It's new, it's groundbreaking technology. Can't wait for you to see it. Here's a little something to take note, make note of all your questions, because you're gonna have them, kind of thing. Or notes of note all the ideas you come up with for using this, right? You could also give them the gift card. Go grab yourself a coffee, join us for the event, or give them a snack. Can't wait to do like the back to school theme. They're learning, they're coming to class, right? Then afterwards, follow up with the thank you. So if you didn't do the Starbucks before, do the Starbucks afterwards. Thank you for attending. We are so excited to see how you put this to use. When you have some time, grab a coffee and let's chat about where you see use for this, or I don't know, ideas, right, that you came up with. But you got to be careful that it doesn't sound like a sales pitch, like, hey, let's grab a coffee so I can sell you. It's, let's grab a coffee, I want to hear about blah blah blah.
Well, in this isolated case, the open house that we're going to have actually has nothing to do with our product. It's to discuss the new law and how they implement it into their business and to share ideas. So it actually has nothing to do with us.
There
It is
you
a
go.
complete giving.
It's helpful as it is, exactly.
It is a learning, helpful. We aren't even going to put any sales presentation in there at all. None. Not even at the end, thanks for attending, here's a coupon for us.
Okay, so one thing you could do is you could say, grab a coffee. I'd love to interview you. After hearing all of this new laws, I'd love to understand what you're seeing as fears, or how you see things changing. And now you're going to write that as content, Nancy. Like, you're either going to blog or you're going to post about, here's what this is. And I'd love to feature you, because no one says no to being featured.
Right.
And now you get an additional conversation with them.
Excellent. Now, shifting back over to coaches. With the themes that we were talking about, the grounding, the meditation, whatever, how would you plan out like 7 touches for coaches that have those kind of common, and it's interesting how we attract the people that we are very similar to, in that they all give first. That's just the way that they all do. For one way or another, they're always giving first. One in particular, she has a meeting every January, and you pick your 3 words for the year. And I could see that right there, is attend the meeting, get her 3 words and send them to her on a wall hanging, right?
Hold on, one sec. It just happens to be near. Never leave the camera in your own Q&A. No, but this, I have it right here. It's a calm board. You wet this, right? And you write. She's gonna write her words, right? So it's a tool, and then it stands up on her desk, or it sits next to her, and then it slowly disappears. So you're letting go of, right? So they could all use something like this, but we have these little, this is not me selling, this is me giving you ideas. We have these little, those bowls that are real in the ringing, the bowls that have the like vibration singing bowls. I
Sound,
think
aren't they called
sound
singing
bowl.
bowls?
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
sound
like that.
bowls.
Right? But you're okay, Nancy, you have probably done, think back to that relationship related one. What traditions have you done for staying grounded, for staying blah, blah, blah? Or you can say, I once attended an event that, you know, did this, and give them the exercise. You can give them little aspirational cards, or what do you call it, like motivational sayings, little desktop, you know, one for every week.
Affirmations.
Affirmations, thank you. Aspiration, you know, okay. Both work. You're gonna give them their aspirations. That will show them you see them, sure. um but that sits on the desk. It reminds them of you, but it's useful, right? So there's a lot of it. And then you talked about nature. You know, there's a lot of different things you can give there. Yeah. You could give them things again. So the goal, the more of those stories you tie together, like the more of an emotional connection you make. So you could tie in the goal, get out more, ground yourself more, with a relationship related, like, this is a tradition that my husband and I do. We go down to the beach every week and blah, blah, blah. Right. So now you've got two of those stories tied into one. Like, yeah. So that's how you kind of weave in. But Nancy, what on that template that I gave you, put down the themes, write them across, so that you can always move them up. You know, I'm going to move this one to December, but New Year's, the transition into a new year, start the new year in balance. Here's the tool. Maybe it's, ooh, look at this bouncing all over. Sorry. Maybe it's like the latest research in mindfulness, or, you know, any of those things. So it doesn't all have to be like gift. It can be content. Your book, I bet that book had, someone wrote about mindfulness, or not mindfulness, but well-being in the book that you were in. You know, stuff like that. Be creative.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. I personally, I feel that the coaches are going to be easier than the real estate agents.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because of again, their mindset, but
but you also just put yourself in what is helpful to a realtor.
right.
That's all you got to be, you know. Yep.
Right.
Go up to the
Right.
industry level. It's still, so we have one of our clients, I said their realtors are their target, and they sent over, they were going to meet with a team, and beforehand they sent a box of goodies before the presentation. Here's a box of goodies through get together, we're watching this. Those people went nuts. It was like $100 worth of snacks and stuff. They sent them like 5 referrals right after that meeting, and they're still sending. And then after he met, he sent another follow-up with like the gift cards and some conversation starters. When you're out and about, you know, you're making new connections. Here's some tools for you to go meet new people. So they're not, you'll get into it. You'll get into it.
Yeah.
And you know how to find me. Okay, so just a couple minutes. So the last call we're going to have, we'll go over how you measure this. So once we start putting this into practice, what are we watching for? Because it's more than just, did someone convert? There are things that lead up to that. There are other opportunities that we may not necessarily recognize are valuable until we actually start watching for it. So, Shondell, anything else? Hopefully that sparked a million things.
Yeah, I like it. I like the ideas. It's confirmation of, while we do things already, we don't do enough in the prospecting space. We wait until they're clients. So I think this is a really good push to be more proactive with it versus reactive, right? Like they have to do something first and then we spoil them.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
That's a lot.
Thank you,
Yes.
Jamie.
Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for plugging away. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.